from this COVID-19, and this platform is one of those. The connections, the friendships, the meetings, the relationships, which I know is going to form into business relationships later on. So firstly, for me, hearty thank you to all of you who basically responded to our call and responded to Orbrix call, out to all of you to say, guys, we need your help. Let's get out there into the community. And Shanta Maharaj-Singh is one of those particular coaches, mentors that have come forward. So Shanta, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Just moving on to some of our, just about myself a little bit. Most of you know me, my credentials are on the right-hand side, but what I'd like to focus again today, and I don't mind repeating this if I have to every single day, but during COVID-19, what we actually found is that we've started creating this platform where leaders in the restoration world meet. And I say in the restoration world because we are in this world where we are restoring ourselves, and restoring ourselves not to the old, but rather to the new. And I strongly believe that we cannot do this by ourselves. So we cannot become ourselves by ourselves. We need to go out of our way to support each other. We need to be mirrored, emulated, and celebrated as who you are truly does make a difference. So become consciously purposeful in your life as a leader. And this is why the platform of Virtually Live by Orbrix has been developed and designed over the last, about a month and a half now or more. Where we started to say that we can't go out, we can't do what all the heroes are doing out there, like doctors, nurses. Now slowly we're starting to restart the business. But at the end of the day, as a training organization and as somebody who's always out there developing and mentoring, we can't do it fully the way we used to. So we had to become innovative. And the Virtually Live platform, working smartly and more responsibly, is one of those platforms for us to be able to do that. So welcome to the session, everybody. Just a little bit about Orbrix Training and Development Services. So pre-COVID, current COVID, and of course post-COVID, we all find that those are our academies, and we'll continue to function. So all we're really doing is we're saying we're doing the same thing, but our methodology is different. We're doing the same processes, but our systems are different. We're doing the same thing, but we have become more innovative in terms of how we do it. So our CBRN Academy is still running fully. We are running training programs. In fact, we've got some complementary training programs running. We've got a crisis management workshop, which is happening again in next week by our facilitator, who will normally fly out from France and run, but he's actually now doing it online. So those of you in disaster management and crisis management, please watch out for that. We'll also be running emergency response for first responders in terms of CBRN. So watch out for those training programs that are coming up. Our radiation protection officer training, for those of you in radiation protection and you need to get your certification, because we know you have to renew it every single year, otherwise you lose your license. We are the only training provider in the whole of the Middle East that has basically responded and got approval to be able to do that for you online. So our trainers are on standby. We have courses. We at least have a minimum of about 2 courses running per month. So please feel free to contact Armel to be able to join those training programs. And then, of course, we have our Business Academy, Leadership Academy, Human Resources, Health and Safety, and all of those academies from which we've been running some complementary training programs. Those of you like Tasneem and many of the others here on the group today have actually joined those sessions where we ran time management, self-management, personal mastery. We ran programs of employee engagement, goal setting, and so forth. And if any of you require those videos, please contact our office and they'll be able to provide those videos as access to you. So that's a little bit about what Orbrix does, and how we've taken this platform virtually was through 3 mediums. One was where we are running virtual workshops, and the workshop you are attending today with Shanta Maharaj is that particular program on virtual workshops. So it's not just the team from Orbrix that's running it, and we've partnered and collaborated with all these volunteers. And like I said before, we've had more than about 20 people that have actually responded and said, Hawa, we'd love to attend, we'd love to join, and we would like to be part of the process. I was really impressed now recently. We had a call from the Abu Dhabi police where one of the captains called in and said, Hawa, we're really fascinated by some of the work that you're doing. We are offering our staff to be able to assist with some of the work you're doing in terms of crisis management or in terms of emergency planning and disaster management. And for me, that was heartfelt, because when we have people from government and community that says, thank you for what you're doing, and we want to help, we want to join, then we know that we're doing the right thing and we're in the right track, and we can only do this collectively and through collaboration. So we'd like to thank the community out there that have responded. Then we have our virtual panel discussions, ladies and gents. It starts every Saturday at 11 a.m. UAE time, 9 a.m. South African time, 12 p.m. Pakistan time. So for those of you who are interested, this week we've got an amazing panel that is coming up, and the panel discussion is extreme innovation for an extreme crisis. We've got people that are specializing in innovation and business innovation particularly. So if you'd like to join in and listen to see how you can innovate your business during this extreme crisis, then that's the session for you, and it's purely interactive, so you can question and answer, and a chance for you to get basically completely complimentary advice from our experts on the panel. And then lastly, watch out for our global summit that is coming up. We've got one big one coming up in terms of emergency planning and disaster management. By early next week, you should see the posters for that. Please do join. We've got a limited number of people to be able to join. So obviously we're going to look at a first come, first serve on the summit as they occur. And we've got some amazing speakers that we will be introducing as of next week. So please watch out for that as well. Just to get into the actual session, our housekeeping for today, please, if you are going to unmute yourself, then please make sure that there aren't any background noise coming from the back, your mobile phones are on silent, and we will try to keep it to time as much as possible. I know that you want to ask Shanta lots of questions, so part of our presentation will be where every now and again we'll just check in to see if you have any question and answer for her. Please, let's have some fun while we're doing this. Lots of collaboration, lots of participation in this particular session. Over to our presenter, just to introduce Shanta Maharaj-Singh, an amazing woman that I've just come to know across, in fact, we've never met personally, and this is what virtual connection is all about. And already we just feel a connection. There's a connection with us through how we actually collaborate virtually. She's a coach, she's a mentor, she's a counselor, she's a motivational speaker. In fact, she's so many things more than just that in this little time that I came to know her. Completely outspoken, completely collaborative, and I really look forward to listening to her session today. She's, as you can see, her credentials, she's a bachelor's in English and psychology and honors in psychology, counseling psychology. A postgraduate certificate in education in further education and training phase. She has a diploma in human resource management and training as well. And combined with all of that, she has 30 years experience in administration, HR education, training, and public speaking. And for me, the big plus for me here is that her approach in these fields is culture sensitive, which is coupled with the application of the fast learning revolution in terms of methods and approaches. So Shanta, we are truly honored from Orbrix to have you online, and a big welcome, and it's all over to you. Armel, will you hand over presentation, or are you running the presentation from your side?
I'm running, Shanta, I'm handing over to Shanta right now.
Okay, fantastic. Shanta,
so Armel, are you, thank you. So is Armel in control of me this morning?
He is handing over presentation mode to you, so you can run directly from your screen. I think will be easier for you, unless you'd like him to be in control mode. Your call.
I'd like him to be in control, so it gives me freedom to enjoy doing what I'm doing.
No issues. So Armel, then you'll run the presentation from your side. Just give him a cue at least about 5 seconds beforehand, and where you can say as we move to the next slide, and he will then move to the next slide for you.
Sure.
Thanks, Shanta.
Will do. You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, Armel, give me the go ahead when you're ready, and yeah.
Right, so while Armel is opening up this slide, you can just quickly do an intro.
All right. Firstly, I need to thank Armel, because can you imagine what we'd be like without technology? So I think before I even proceed, I want to thank you for having me on the platform. To all our attendees, thank you so much for coming. I've noticed on the attendee list, there's somebody who visited South Africa years ago, about 2 years ago, and he had come down on a conference, and I noticed that he has joined. So a very, very young man all the way from India who's decided to join today, and that's quite impressive. So I'm actually quite happy about that. before I start, I need all of you to have two sheets of paper if you're going to be writing on paper, or perhaps your, whatever devices you have, because I have two exercises that I'd like you to do. So if you could please, run around and get that sorted, and then I can start. Okay, I like an interactive approach. And if you need to say anything or ask anything, please feel free to do that. If you look at my first slide, it says, it is in empowering others that you empower yourself. And I've asked you to read that the other way. Now, what I mean is take that empowering others and change it to empowering yourself that you empower others. And just write down on your paper, what do you think about that? Do you agree with me or not? That it is in empowering others that you empower yourself, and it is in empowering yourself that you empower others. Okay, and now we can go on to the next slide while you ponder over that. I'm sure all of you are wondering, what is personal growth? I could look at this from an existential perspective. I could look at this from experiential learning, but I'm not here to share the psychological aspect. I'm here to share the very practical aspect of personal growth with you. And personal growth, as it says, is personal. You cannot go to a course and, hypothetically, you're going to a happiness course. You cannot go in there as a miserable person and come out and say, I've received a certificate in happiness. It doesn't work that way. The same with personal growth. It's yours. You take ownership of it. Now, this has been called personal growth, personal development. There's been arguing about this, going on all the time, but it's a lexical issue. Whether you call it growth or development, it depends on what stage of your life you are and what aspect you're dealing with. So it's a vast topic. Some of it can be conflicting because, as Hawa said, I approach things on a culture-sensitive basis. What might be conflicting for one culture with personal growth is very acceptable and is quite the norm of another culture. So what suits you is not necessarily going to be suiting the other person. So let's be mindful of that when we proceed this morning. And I'm looking at our attendee list. We have people from all over. So there are different cultures, and some of the things might not gel quite well with you. And some you might just have that moment of, oh yes, I do this. The other thing, please remember, this is not rocket science. It takes common sense. That's all it is. It can be conflicting, doesn't suit everybody. It's not rocket science, and it takes common sense. Armel, the next slide, please. Okay, now look at the slide in front of you, and I have deliberately put the word rules. Now, on that piece of paper, what do you think rules? What does the word rules bring to you? Immediately you see rules, what do you think? So can you just write down on that paper your interpretation of rules? Like you could write down words like rigid, formatted, maybe flexible, things like that. So just take a second to write that, please. Your understanding of the word rules. And then I want you to further look at that slide. And I've stated that it is a misused word, because how can we have rules on how to develop personally when you and I are not the same people? Also, who I was this morning at 8 o'clock is not who I am now. Who I was yesterday is not who I am now. So to me, the word rules, I've just put it there to instigate some thought. Do we have to have rules for personal development? On that paper that you have in front of you, do we have to have rules? Yes or no? You write it. It's your personal development. Okay. Can we go on to what I think might be a solution? But it's just my thoughts. So when we're looking at personal development, the first thing you've got to understand is it's never too late for personal growth. Okay? You could be 16, you could be 60. You will grow till you take your last breath. And you're probably saying to me, how does a person grow right up to then? You do. Let us look at this. Let us look at a person in a nursing home, right? Somebody who's about 75. Probably in their homes, they were served hot meals. Wife was running around. I'm not being gender sensitive or anything, right? So here was the wife running around doing everything. And now suddenly this person is like, oh my goodness, what's going on, you know? So anyways, that person too is going to learn, okay? Now, the other thing you need to know is with regard to the information that you get. Is everything out there true? What have we learned with COVID-19? With COVID-19, I've learned one thing. We have so many wannabe doctors. We have so many wannabe journalists. And strange enough, we have some wannabe international lawyers as well, who seem to have an understanding of what's going on in the whole world through fake news. So we've got to be very mindful when we are growing personally. Be mindful what we take in. Be mindful of that which does not suit us and our present situation and our present time. That's very, very important, especially with COVID-19. I literally beg of you for this. Do not allow it to happen, right? You're going to be derailed. Now, we all, you know, when we look at failure, it's, oh my God, and we start weeping and we get all miserable. I don't know how many of you remember, well, I'm going back many years, but it was such a common thing to hear at schools when teachers always said that a failure is a stepping stone to success. Now, if you say it to the Generation Z child, he's still trying to figure out what do you mean by a stepping stone. So you've got to say it in so many other ways to accommodate these children, okay? Now, if something doesn't happen the way you wanted it to, yes, you may pull your hair out, but it's your hairdresser's cost. You may go and break something. It's your item. Don't cause yourself damage. It's not worth it. You failed. You could either learn from it or you could become better. If you are proactive about your personal growth, you will learn from it. Let us look at business. Let us look at people who have lost their jobs. Okay. What's happening to them now? It's failure. It's a sad failure. When it comes to money, it's a very different way of approaching it. I dealt with somebody yesterday whose business is debt collecting. And I was so impressed. This is somebody who's highly educated, been in this business for years, absolutely successful, and a very close friend of mine. And his message last night was, you know, I'm so sorry that we haven't kept in touch because I'm re-engineering my business. And I sent him a video to guide his staff along and things like that. And he said, your personal growth knowledge that you're imparting does help because you allow a person to take responsibility for their personal growth. There is no magic pill. You cannot be the queen or king of negativity and get up the next morning and say, well, I'm going to be personal, you know, talk about my personal growth today. I'm going to be positive, etc. Because that to me borders on such a crazy personality kind of thing. You know, so you this one day and you the extreme opposite the next. It's got to take time. It takes work. It takes effort. And most of all, it's discomfort. If you stay in your comfort zone, trust me, take down the time, take down the date of this presentation. If you stay in your comfort zone, remember today that you will never grow if you stay in that zone. You have to try taking the road less taken. It is challenging, it is scary, but we need to do it in order to grow. Personal growth doesn't mean drastic changes, I told you that, right? And consistency is the key. So you don't do one thing today, you don't get up and start one thing, and then you slack the next. And then suddenly when things fail, you wake up again. Now, my whole thing with personal growth, there's two questions you ask. Are you being proactive or reactive? So take your own situation with personal growth, your current circumstances. Please jot down, are you being proactive about it or are you reacting to something? Right? So could you please just write that down? Are you a proactive person with your personal growth or are you reacting to something? Be mindful of that and write it down. Learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. Now, you know, when you look at the Japanese art, they take the broken bowls, right? And they put gold in between when they're putting it together. It doesn't matter if you break and if you break those rules. What matters is how you're going to come back. More valuable or less valuable. So while Armel is changing that slide, we go on to the next thing. Okay, so now you've established whether you are being proactive about your personal growth or whether you're being reactive, right? So we've established that. I hope on your paper in front of you, you're actually seeing where you are going with this. So what are the things we need to do? Now, the various things, okay? We need to self-assess. What do we mean by self-assess? I'm going to go through all these things. We need to open our minds and be curious. Nothing can happen if you have a closed attitude. Definitely not. And also when you are being curious, I appeal to you to do it according to the norms of your culture. Don't become so out of the box that your personal growth leads to your rejection. My teenage years was in the hippie era. Now, I'm sure that you're doing the math very quickly, and you know, you can figure out when that was. And I have so many acquaintances from then that had this curious mind for growth. And unfortunately, they landed up going in the wrong direction. They've done things where they haven't grown. And now in the 6th decade of their lives, there's regret. So be very mindful, open your mind, be curious, start learning. But also remember, we live in a society, we live in a community. And yes, your personal growth is personal. But do not forget that we exist within a community. And that's vitally important. We can say we want to stand alone. We can say it doesn't matter, but it does. It definitely does. So be very mindful of types of the ways you want to grow and how this impacts on you and your role in your community and in your society that you belong to. Accept everything that is. You know, the famous, give me the courage to accept the things that I cannot change, wisdom to know the difference, all that kind of thing. Welcome change. Now, when I say welcome change, I'm talking about welcoming positive change. Negative change does occur as well. You don't need to welcome that. You need to have the power to say, I don't want it. Be realistic, learn to let go, and live with purpose. Now, in the next set of slides that Armel is going to go on to, I'm going to break each one of these down, okay? But before we do that, now this one is going to take you a few minutes. Could you please draw 4 quadrants on your paper? Just 4 quadrants, right? And I'll show you what it should look like. 4 ordinary quadrants. I'm doing mine as well. So this is all I'm asking you to do. 4 quadrants on your paper. So this comes under self-assess. Right? Now, in your first quadrant, I want you to list 2 or 3 words.
Shanta, if I can just interrupt for a few seconds. I thought I was the only one hearing that background sound, but I see a comment as well from Joy. There's a lot of background sound coming from somewhere. I'm not checking. I see everyone else seems to be muted. So if you can just check in terms of your mic if it's not rubbing off somewhere or anything. Because
it's rubbing against my hair.
Okay. All right. So you just check on that because it's coming through quite loud. I'm just looking in. No one else seems to be unmuted, so I doubt it's coming from anyone else. If you can just check on that for me. Thanks, Shanta.
Sure. Is it any clearer now?
That's a bit better. Let's see how it goes.
Okay. All right. So it's rubbing. Sorry, it was my mic against my hair. I'm terribly sorry for that.
No.
Okay. So we've got the 4 quadrants, right? Now, in your first quadrant, could you describe in 2 or 3 words how you were pre-COVID? Just 2 or 3 words to describe you pre-COVID. Right. And then in the next quadrant, even if you write 1 or 2 words, on how others.
I just want to just check if anyone has their mics that are unmuted, please, if you can just mute yourself. There's a lot of background noise that is still coming through. If you can just check on that. So if every participant can please check on my side, Armel, they all definitely seem to be muted.
Yes, they are all muted. It's something background noise coming from Shanta.
Right. So, okay, so Shanta,
is it still happening?
Yes, yes. All right. I see there's a hand that's been raised by Sanat. Sanat, is there any questions that you might have or queries? Sanat has her hand raised. Sanat, I think if you can unmute yourself. Okay, she says no. Thank you, Sanat. All right, so Naz says she couldn't hear you. So if you can just try that again, please, Shanta.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is there any improvement?
So let's try. Let's see how it goes as you talk along.
Okay, so the quadrants that I wanted, right? So it was these 4 quadrants that I asked you to do. And in quadrant 1, if you could list the words that best describe you pre-COVID-19. 1 or 2 words, good enough. Quadrant 2, list the word that others would have used to describe you. This is pre-COVID, right? So it's the past. Now what I'd like you to do, actually, I can hear some background sounds coming from your end.
Yeah, okay. There's like a scratching or somebody sweeping.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Just give me a second. Here we go, Shanta.
Okay.
Thanks, Armel. Shanta, you got the go-ahead to actually continue. We've just muted everyone for now. Shanta?
Quadrant 4. Yes.
She seems to have trouble with her internet.
I can hear you clearly.
Okay, try again now, Shanta. If you can just switch off your camera for a while. Let's just switch your camera off.
I hear you clearly.
If that works. Okay, Shanta, let's try that.
For those who didn't hear me. Okay. Quadrant 3, for those who didn't hear me. List the word that might best describe you post-COVID-19, just one word. And quadrant 4, list the words that others might use to describe you post-COVID-19. So let me go through these quadrants quickly. Quadrant 1, the words that best described you pre-COVID. Quadrant 2, the word that others would have used to describe you. This is pre-COVID-19. Quadrant 3, words that might best describe you post-COVID-19. Quadrant 4, the words that others might use to describe you post-COVID-19. Now, please take a minute. Look at those 4 quadrants. What remains and what has changed? How do you see yourself? Are you the same person you were pre-COVID-19 compared to what you might be post-COVID-19? Remember, I've used the word might. There is a possibility that you could be that. It's not cast in stone. Then look at the other 2 quadrants. How would people see you? How would they perceive you? Would they perceive you in the same way that they perceived you pre-COVID-19, or has something changed? Take a minute to think about that, and we'll go on to the next slide. Armel, okay, thank you. Now, what I need you to do is just look at this little picture that I've got up there. Keep it simple. You do not have to change your whole lifestyle. You've actually just looked at this little exercise we've done, right, in the quadrants. And there is absolutely no need for you to change your entire lifestyle. What you have to change, and I use a strong modal of, I wouldn't even say suggestion, but I'd say a modal of instruction when I use the word have. You have to change your approach to life. And that's where the difference comes in. And we might say, okay, but I can't do that. No, you can. There's so much hidden potential in all of us and our endless possibilities. Stop selling yourself short. You are more than what you assume you are, and you are more than what you assume you are worth. One of the most important things when you're doing this is develop a habit of learning. I noticed there was a question there that came up about changing your attitude. Most definitely. You know, I think a lot of us, and this might sound cliche, a lot of us post-COVID are going to have an attitude of gratitude. To know, especially those of us who to date have not lost anybody, have not had serious tragedies. Of course, some of us have loved ones on the front line, and we know what it feels like every day with that fear. But there's also that gratitude that comes up. You know, every day and every night before you sleep, it's become a norm. Not that we didn't do it before, but it's that thank you, God. You know, that word shukr that comes in, and it's something that I picked up so often when I lived abroad in the Emirates, that there's 2 very, very important words, and apply it to your personal development as well. Have sabr, have patience for those of you who don't know it. And as you grow, shukr is very, very important. Be grateful, have patience. And in that time, don't use it as an excuse for not working on yourself. Vitally important. Don't suddenly say, I'm happy as I am and I don't need to move ahead, because then you're going to stagnate. Okay, so feed your brain. Your brain is like a sponge. I say this to youngsters, and I don't often deal with very young children, but I often say to them, look at SpongeBob and just think that your brain is this happy little fellow jumping around. Just let him dip into that water as often as possible. Absorb, become that sponge. And you will have that aha moment. You will have that light bulb moment. Because when you change your attitude and you change your approach, you feed your brain and develop a habit of learning new things, you will grow. It's inevitable that you will grow. So all of us have that light bulb moment. Let's look forward to it. Amal, the next
Shanta,
slide,
we have a question while Amal is moving to the next slide.
Sure.
Nasira is actually asking, what about your fears, even though you want to be grateful? And I think that's an excellent question, because as much as we are grateful every single day, we're human, so we're going to have these little things that are creeping in. And one of the big things is fear. So how do you manage and deal with that?
Okay, so thank you, Nasira. With regard to fear, I think for me, the most important thing with fear, whatever you fear, write it down. The item, the issue that you fear, and your reaction. So give it a day or two, come back and see, do I still fear this? Is my reaction still the same? And if your reaction is continuously the same, then you need to ask yourself, is what you are fearing an important part for you to develop? Or is it something that is causing you not to develop? If it's causing you not to develop, how can we get rid of it? How can I, as a person, work around this? What are my strengths that I can use to overcome this? Right? Does that answer you in some way, Nasira? Has it given you some idea where you have to do the self-analysis? Okay. You're welcome.
Unmute yourself if you'd like to as well. She's also just commented that it is overwhelming to also be around negative people. We're stuck at home and all the family members are very different to COVID-19. So yeah, Nasira, I understand that totally, and yes, you're absolutely right. And I always say to family members and others, it's not my monkey, it's not my circus. It's a philosophy that I've actually had, is that their drama sometimes is their drama, and all we can really do is help them but not join them. And the moment we join them, their drama becomes our drama. So it is difficult though, being in one home. So Shanta, your thoughts?
Well, you took something that I was going to say. Not my monkeys, not my circus. But there's an isiZulu word that we use. And it, for those of you who don't understand, it basically means it's not my business. When we say it's not my ndaba.
Yep.
If you're familiar with the word indaba, but it's like, ageko ndaba gamina, meaning it's not my business. Really, it isn't. Nasira, it must be very, very difficult to switch off.
Yes.
Absolutely difficult. And, depending on whether you're living in a small family or a big family, each person is coming through with their own theories about this. And the sad thing is that we were not taught how to handle this. We were not taught how to deal with cabin fever, It's something that we have to ask ourselves, are we going to be the wiser ones in this and step aside? Or are we going to hold on to this irritation that's burning within us? And then, you literally just dust your hands. That's what I do. And nobody understands that I'm actually mentally saying to myself, it's not my issue. I will have nothing to do with it. The famous, other famous word that comes up when you want to just end something. Hawa, you'll be very familiar with this. When somebody says khalas, and it's just, yes, I'm done with it. This is not my business. Khalas. Khalas. I'm walking away from it.
Absolutely.
So, Nasira?
thought, just before you move on to your slide, Nasira is also saying that she has a client, some of her clients are just not coping. And I just like to say something here, ladies and gents. Some of our jobs, like Nasira, who's a financial coach as well, like myself, business and life coach like Shanta, what we have to look at is, yes, the important thing is just showing up. Yesterday, you know, just to share with some of you, we had, I belong to one of the boards where I'm sitting on, where there's a group of women. We help them in terms of entrepreneurship, leadership, and development. And one of the ladies who was on session with us on Sunday, her child just passed away the day after. Total shock, total despair. And one of the members of the group actually started messaging me and said, Hawa, I don't know how to deal with this. She's calling me and I really don't know. And it's at times like this that we can't say, not my monkeys, not my business, because those are times that all we have to do is really show up. And she was so afraid to say the wrong thing. And I said to her, we don't have to be afraid. Just be yourself. The fact that she calls you, and so that the fact that your clients are coming to you tells you that they rely on your experience, they rely on your expertise, and sometimes it's just showing up for them. It might not, you might not know the right thing to say on certain issues, but do what you do best. And what you do best, in your case, Nasira, financial support. As a parent, parental support. As a mother, to be able to be a good friend to your child or your daughter or your son that's going through what they're going through. So as much as we are saying, you know, don't own the emotion, that's what we mean by not your monkeys, not your circus. What we are saying is showing up for that person and understand their emotion. Because when we understand it, we are, and name it for them. Tell them, you know, I'm sorry you're feeling this agitated. I'm sorry you're feeling this frustration. This is what I can do to help you and support you, even if it's just a hug. That's just showing up. So Shanta, sorry, I just had to say that very quickly.
No, that's fine. I actually appreciate that, because I was going to include that as well, Hawa. Thank you for that. You've got to react to the circumstance the way it is. And Yusuf, you've said it beautifully there. Situational awareness. Absolutely important, you know. Different situations require different response. Now, can we go on to, is it okay if I go on to the next slide? Is everybody done with the questioning of the other one?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. So accept everything as it is, right? Without acceptance, we cannot change, because what are we changing? Unless we accept what we have and that it has to be changed, we cannot change anything. And acceptance is similar to forgiveness, where you stop resisting. You actually say, I know what's going on. I need to move forward. I need to release myself from these shackles that are holding me down. All right? Armel, the next slide, please. So welcome change. Now, you know, there's these cliches that go around all over. Change is as good as a holiday at this point in time. Don't even think of holidays, anybody. So let's not look at change as a holiday. That's a very, very far dream for any of us. Change is essential to personal growth. How can I be the same person I was yesterday if I think I'm going to be a better person tomorrow? There has to be change. And it's just positive change. Now, what worries me about positivism, and it's going to come up in one of my other slides, is where there's, you know, this overemphasis on being positive. When you look at it from the psychological perspective, overemphasis on being positive can lead to denial. And that just brings about a whole lot of other problems. However, with regard to change, know that you are reinventing yourself. And don't be scared of it. Enjoy it, because it's you, right? We have lots of myths. Try not to hold on to them. Of course, if they give you that feeling of security, etc., and you want to hold on to them, know that they are myths and misconceptions, and that you have the power to change them, right? So try and let that go. It's all within you. Nobody else has more power than you have when you're changing. With business, as I said, I had this one close friend who's got this large business, and I was so over the moon, excited and happy when he said to me he is re-engineering his business with the change in mindset to cope with post-COVID-19. So we need to re-engineer ourselves before we even try to re-engineer our business, because our anticipations cannot be the same as they were pre-COVID-19. So let's just bear that in mind and look at what the next slide has to say. So we've done with acceptance, we've done with welcoming change. So Armel's going to take us on to the next one now. This is vitally important. I promise you, this actually scares me when people are not realistic. And if you look at it, I've highlighted in red there. You shouldn't be positive in a delusional way. I am all for, these lovely courses that happen on positivity and doing so many things over so many days. I mean, I should be all for that because I practice those things to some extent myself. However, what I do tell my clients is let's not look at everything through rose-tinted glasses. And if that is in your mind, you will not be positive in a delusional way. It is absolutely dangerous to be positive in a delusional way. Neither should you begin picking yourself apart. Now, there's two extremes here. When people are positive in a delusional way, and then others are so negative that you start looking at them and saying, now, didn't you see one iota of anything good in you? A lot of people love exaggeration. And in trying to be realistic, they exaggerate so much, be it positive or be it negative. Right? The sad thing with both is that you lose the magnitude of either of them and the role they play. I just noticed a comment that Nasira made, and I agree with you totally on that, your comment with regard to positivity, Nasira. So what we need to do is change this relationship within yourself. So what are you so positive about, and what are you so negative about? So I'm positive, I get up in the morning and, oh my God, I only see this beautiful sunshine with a smile on its face. I only see blue skies. But I need to be realistic that it's a cloudy day. And in being realistic, I also have to understand, and this is very, very figurative the way I'm explaining it, that those clouds might burst. They might. It's not definite. And I might be drenched. So the problems will come down to me. But that's a possibility. So let me not focus, let me not magnify that. Let's focus on something that's real. I have an issue, and this is how I'm going to deal with it. You've got to know yourself well. And you need to be realistic within yourself about your strengths and weaknesses. Remember, I brought this up on the other one. The other slide about strengths and weaknesses in the beginning, when we did that quadrant, etc. You need to do your own SWOT analysis. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? And then you take your obstacles and opportunities and look at that. What's holding me back? What's pushing me forward? And then, of course, the threats. So being realistic is a personal SWOT analysis, absolutely personal SWOT analysis. Di, you brought up that little voice within you. I agree with that. And very often you need to say to that little voice as well, if it's a negative voice, now tell me, why are you nagging me? And if it's the positive voice that's within you all the time, explain to that little voice in your mind that this is not what I'm seeing. You're telling me to look at this, but this is not what I'm seeing. So that little voice can have, a double impact on you. And I agree with you, listen to that little voice and be mindful of that little voice within you. Armel, the next screen, please.
Just as you go into the next screen, just something for me there. Are you Pollyanna walking around the garden saying there are no weeds? And we know that in every garden there are weeds, because when you don't look at those weeds, the weeds will start to take over your garden eventually. Because when you ignore it and say, oh, we have no weeds, we have no weeds, walking around being this happy fellow that says, I have no weeds in my garden, the weeds eventually does take out. So that's the realistic side of your business, your home, your financial status, everything. Look at the weeds in every aspect of your life.
Yeah, that Pollyanna principle is very, very important. You know, absolutely important. We need to be mindful of what we are facing, the situation we're in, the good and the bad, and make the best of what's in front of us. Right? Now, two of the most difficult things ever in personal growth is learning to let go and living with purpose and intention. You know, the movie Frozen, what a lovely moral movie to teach children to just let it go, let it go. But there's a lot of grown-ups that haven't learned how to let go yet. And we need to eliminate the things. As much as we want to learn, we'll have to unlearn as well. Because you cannot say that at our age, considering all of us sitting through the session, that we have not learned some things that need to unlearn. It's baggage. And if that baggage is drawing us back, let it go. If it doesn't serve you, let it go, because it will liberate you. It opens up space for better things to come in. And we need to allow that. You know, what is the sense of carrying something that no longer served you? It's absolutely useless. It's going to weigh you down. So learning to let go, that is a process. But I'm going into the personal aspect of learning to let go. When it's trauma from the past, that requires serious psychological intervention to let go. If it's financial trauma, then that's where you need to see a counselor in conjunction with your business person's advice. So they need to work together to help you to let go. Nazira, I think you can comment on this. I'm sure you're in a position now where you would like to say to people, I can recommend some counseling for you. We cannot dictate, Colleen, I agree. We have to empower people in order to deal with the situations. There's no ways that we can tell them what to do, but we can encourage and empower them to deal with their situations on their own. So now we come to, okay, the letting go, done, right? Living with purpose and intention. Instead of hoping, intend it to happen for a right reason. Now I want to bring in something that's pretty common, but you know, it's not business related. When you look at somebody that you've divorced and you look at them at a function and you say, oh my God, I really hope it works this time around. Have some intention and purpose. That was baggage you got rid of. Don't intend for that baggage to come back to you for the wrong purpose. It's not going to serve you any right or any good. The same with business. I hope I get promoted. You see somebody getting this award and I hope I could get that. No, don't just live on hopes. Work towards it. And if it's not going to bring you a positive result, why even hope on it? It's not worth it. Also, stop leaving things up to external factors. Learn to live purposely and intentionally. You're the architect of your own destination. Remember that all the time. You know, I've ended off this slide by saying you are the leading actor, playwright, and director of the movie that is called life. So don't give this power to somebody else. Take it. It's yours and yours alone. Armel, could we go on to the next slide, please? Slide 11. Okay, so here are some simple ideas to get you through. Write down your goals, plan. You're going to read through this. I'm not going through every one because it's the stuff that's right in front of you. And while you're looking at the slide, perhaps, capture it or something of that sort. But these are very, very simple ideas. I've encouraged a number of people to print out something like this and keep it on the refrigerator. A simple thing with the goals, and this might sound so basic, it's probably, something you're going to say, oh my God, this is such an embarrassing thing. When your domestic worker comes, how do you even give your lady the goals for the day? Have you ever done this for your lady? Do this, do that, a routine. Obviously, you're not going to say to her, pick up a book and start journaling, because then you're going to fire her. But it's the idea, simple things to get you through. Don't think that these don't work. It's sometimes the simplest things that will guide you through. So look at this and try and capture the screen, because it's just something that you need to have in front of you, okay? We're going to go on to screen number 12, but look at the last one here before we go. Track and monitor yourself. If you do not track and monitor yourself, how do you know if you're progressing? How do you know if you're even getting anywhere? Armel, number 12, please. Okay, now when we look at personal growth, it's not just in work, it's not just in, personal life, whatever. There's 5 aspects. There's spirituality, identity, responsibility, destiny, and legacy. Hawa, may I ask, are you close to Salah time in the UAE?
Yeah, well, the adhan should have gone now shortly. It should go shortly. However, I think a lot of people are saying they need to leave. The hour is up, but we can just give them an extra 5 minutes. If we can do a conclusion, they'll hold.
Sure. Yeah, because I'm also concerned about your Salah time there.
No
okay,
issues.
So
still got
we go.
2 minutes, so that's okay.
Thank you. So we look at the following slides. The next one as well, please, Armel. If we could go through the next slide. Slide 13. So this is what I need you to do. I need you to just write down these 3 things. The mission statement, your mission assessment, and your progress assessment. Now, this is something I need you to do post-session. If you could please keep this as a document that guides you through your personal mission statement, your mission assessment as time goes on, and your progress. I'd really appreciate you doing this as something that you take back with you from the session, something that becomes yours from the session. Armel, slide 14, please. Points to ponder. This is another thing you need to look at. If you could capture the slide in a way that you can, because these are things that these are your takeouts from the session that I'd like you to have and to refer to. And Armel, we could go to, I think, number 15 is my last slide. Okay, so remember this, and remember this applies to you in life as well. We're given one opportunity. Do it while you can, because you'll never be able to walk this way again. And likewise with your life, you're given one opportunity. Make the best of it. If you want to know more about me, contact Hawa, or you can contact me on, have a look at my YouTube channel. Please feel free to send your questions via Hawa to me. And thank you for trusting me with your valuable time. And those of you going off to Salah now, may your prayers be answered. Thank you, Hawa.
Amin. Thank you very much, Shanta. Armel, if you can just pass presenter back to me again, I can just I can conclude. Thanks. I will be opening up to question and answer just before I quickly do a conclusion. Just, are there any questions that anybody has? The lines are open. Armel, if you can just open up everyone's lines for those of you who are still here.
There is one question from Master. I did ask in the comment, but I think it was gone. All
right, if you can just check on that. Are there any questions? Such a beautiful insight session. Thank you, Shanta, all from Amika. If there are any questions, please let me know in the comments, or you're welcome to unmute yourself as well. Shanta, from our side, on behalf of Orbrix and on behalf of Training Excellence South Africa, we'd just like to thank you for your time, your effort. I think that was very informative. We've had a few people who's asking if they can have access to some of the information. Obviously, I'll chat to Shanta about giving out her slides. We'll first just confirm if that is possible or not. But if it is, then we will make sure that you get a copy of it. If not, please watch the videos. The videos, in fact, by next week, most of our videos should start to get uploaded on our Staying Virtually Live Facebook page. Please do join. If you're not a member of that group yet, please do join. We also encourage all our speakers, our mentors, our coaches to share their videos, share their comments, share their work so that people can actually connect with you even onto that or from that particular group. It's a fairly new group that we've just started about 2-3 weeks ago. So please, the more people that join us, the more interactive we can actually become part of that. So please share it out far and wide, and we'll have more people join us. So on behalf of Orbrix, again, Shanta, thank you very much. It was absolutely fantastic. We really enjoyed all the things that you did. And I'm sure even from the slides, those last few exercises, we'll definitely share those exercises out because those are practical for people to actually align back to their office. So thank you very much, everyone who has joined us. Khuda Hafiz, Assalamu Alaikum, goodbye, and tot ziens for those of you from South Africa. Like I said, I wouldn't be South African if I didn't say that. Zainab, thank you very much for the kind words. Thank you to all of you who's leaving some very positive words and comments in our chat box.